Hi guys, welcome back to Planet Moonshine, the planet where we use home distillation techniques in a professional microbrewery and ask the question, can we make some money out of this? So, in our last video, we made some GNS, grain neutral spirit. Some people call it NGS, neutral grain spirit. Whatever you like, it's all good. This has been part of a video series we've been doing about turning old beer into new spirits. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to develop 2 gin recipes, and hopefully with a little bit of tweaking, maybe these 2 can go on to be a production run of our very first gin for sale. So that'll be exciting. To make our gin today, we're going to be using a small copper alembic pot still, and that's going to be used for the recipe development. So if that floats your boat, stick around. Okay, so let's get going. So this is the cheap alembic pot still that I bought off Amazon. Yeah, I think something like 150 euros. Probably less actually, I think it was more like 130. It holds 1.5 litres here in its belly, and this is a good size for doing gin recipe development because I can charge it with about 1 litre of 40% GNS, and it will make me about 1 bottle of gin, 70 centilitres of usable spirit. So what have we got? We've got the belly, we've got a little onion dome here, we've got a vapor path here with a point of no return up at the top here, and we come down here and there is a lack of connection to this condenser, but basically inside here there's a coil and the spirit comes out down here out of this little thing. So we have to keep this full of cold water. There's no flow in or out for this. I told you it was a cheap one. So we'll be putting ice cubes in there. Okay. So why are we doing our recipe development in this little tiny cheap thing? Well, the answer is that if I was to charge the still, the big still, the 50 litre still with GNS, and the recipe that I'd picked didn't actually work terribly well, that's a lot of wasted spirits. So this is going to help us find out what's right and just tweak our recipe until we're confident enough that we're ready for a production run. So yesterday I did some preparation with this thing. It got a good old soapy water washout. Then following that we got some peracetic acid, diluted that down and then charged the still with that and then ran it for about 20 minutes, just pushing steam through, nothing in the condenser to cool it down, literally just blowing steam through the vapor path, acidic steam. Now a lot of people use vinegar. I use peracetic acid just because it's what I happen to have around. After the acid wash, just rinsed it with water, and then we did a sacrificial alcohol run. What does that mean? That means I took a bottle of old beer that I can't sell anymore, put it in the still, and just ran that at full power. Again, nothing in the condenser, so just steam coming through with the alcohol cleaning the vapor path. So that was pretty much our prep. Rinsed it out with water, and we are ready to go today. So how'd you go about designing a gin recipe? Well, it starts with knowing what you want to make. That sounds simple, right? But you really have to understand what you're shooting for. And if you don't know what you want to make, but you just want to make a general gin, start with someone's proven, tried and trusted recipe. I would recommend you have a go at Odin's Easy Gin. You'll find it on the Home Distillers Forum, just Google it. But if you want to make something with a special flavour, then you have to understand what botanicals in the gin drive that flavour. Now, there are plenty of useful resources on gin botanicals. I've listed a couple down in the video description, but what you need to understand is what the relative quantity of each botanical should be. Now, some of the information I've provided gives useful guidance on quantities of certain botanicals to use, but you need to understand that these are trying to produce a balanced gin flavour. If you're trying to produce something with a particularly strong flavour, then the botanicals that drive that flavour, you need to increase the amounts to push that flavour forwards, but obviously not so far that it begins to taste a little bit weird. But then that's where the fun in recipe development comes. So, just so you know how I approach recipe development, I start off with an idea of what I want to make. Then I go out and look for commercial examples of gins that have that flavour profile forward. I take the same approach with beer. If I want to make a new beer recipe, I go out and look for commercial examples of beers that drive those flavours forward. And then, when you've got a few of those under your belt, you can start to think about which of those examples did you prefer over the other ones. That will help you understand what flavours it is that you really appreciate in a particular style of gin. Now, once you have identified that, then you need to know which botanicals are driving those flavours, and then you can start tweaking the quantities of those botanicals to give you the flavour that you want. Make sense? Okay, great. So, if you're trying to make a boldly flavoured gin that maybe features ginger, then you need to find out what quantity of ginger pushes that ginger flavour profile forward enough, but not too much. Okay, there is one botanical that you have to have in a gin, and that of course is juniper berries. You can't call it gin technically unless it's got, some people say 51% of the recipe, but I think most people would agree that the juniper flavour needs to be evident in a gin. Whether you have a lot of juniper or a little juniper, I think that's a personal preference, and you should go with whatever floats your own boat. Another essential is coriander seeds. Again, personal preference. I don't like my gins to be too coriander forward. Coriander has a very distinct flavour, and some people find it gives a kind of a soapy flavour if it's too evident. Some people really like that. Personally, I don't want my gin to taste like soap. So I reduce it down below what people would consider to be normal. But take a look down in the video description and you'll see the relative quantities that people suggest to achieve a balanced flavour. All right. So guys, what type of gin are we going to try and make today? I said we were going to try to make 2 gins. So one gin is going to be a citrus forward gin, and I'm going to focus that on grapefruit and lime. The other gin is going to be a spice forward gin, and we're going to focus that on a variety of spices. In my citrus forward gin, I have put 12 botanicals. Now, if you want to know quantities, you'll find them down in the video description. Take a look. But basically, this gin is juniper, coriander, orris root, honey, rose petals, mango, grapefruit peel, lime peel, mint, a tiny bit of aniseed, black pepper and almonds. And in our spicy gin, we are going with juniper, coriander, orris root, lemon peel, honey, cardamom, cumin, vanilla, rosemary, tarragon, rose petals, black pepper, apple and walnut. So I think with these two gins, we should be able to make something that's pretty decent. So, maceration or infusion. What the heck? Okay, it turns out there are two main ways that you can put botanical flavours into a gin. One way is maceration. That means quite literally steeping the botanicals in some spirit for a period of time and then distilling it to get your gin. The other way is vapour infusion. That means putting your botanicals into the vapour path, so they sit in the path of the vapour through the still, and the vapour, as it's rising up out of the still, extracts the flavours and aromas directly from the botanicals and then condensed down into the gin. So, which to choose? Well, there's no wrong answer to this question. You can do whatever you want. Some people macerate everything. Some people use a vapor infusion for everything, and some people use a combination of the two. Now, the people who use the combination of the two tend to macerate the harder botanicals, the dried berries, the seeds, the spices, and they tend to vapor infuse the softer botanicals, so the peels, the herbs, stuff like that. Most people agree that maceration develops stronger flavors than vapor infusion. I guess because the spirit spends more time in direct contact with the botanicals. However, they really do both work. I chose to macerate everything. But you do whatever floats your boat, you do it your way, that's the fun. Okay, so yesterday I did my preparation. And here we have 2 jars with 40% GNS and all of my botanicals. One is my citrus forward gin, the other my spice forward gin. These have been left overnight. I mean, literally 18 to 20 hours. They've been sitting, steeping in this spirit. How long to steep for? You know, again, it's whatever you want. Some people macerate for a short period of time, an hour or 3. Most people that I read about macerate overnight. Some people recommend macerating for as long as a couple of weeks. Obviously, the longer you macerate, the stronger the flavour development. So you would probably put less botanicals in if you plan to macerate for longer. However, bear in mind that the longer you macerate for, the more chance you have of extracting flavours that maybe you didn't want. So you'll start to get more tannic flavours, and you might start to get more acidic flavours just because of overexposure of the botanicals to the spirits. But like I said at the beginning, you do what you want. Me, overnight. So here we are all set up. This is our first jar. Let's put it in the still. It smells like gin. So, in it goes, botanicals and everything. put the lid on. Now, as I mentioned, this is a cheap-ass pot still. So we need to make some seals around the swan neck connection here and the onion dome connection here. Otherwise, all of our vapor is going to come out, which is not good because you lose alcohol, and B, if you've got an open flame anywhere nearby, kaboom. So how are we going to do that? The answer is quite simple. We've got some flour, we've got a little jar, we've got some water. So we take, quite literally, about a tablespoon of flour and about the same amount of water, and just put them together. We'll use one of these little spoons to stir it with. Almost immediately you get a thick, gloopy paste, and all we're going to do is just take a little bit of that and apply it. I'm going to bring the camera in close to show you. And that's it. We've got a seal all the way around. It doesn't have to be beautifully done. It doesn't take long, and you can just rinse your finger in a little bit of water afterwards and you're done. Okay, so the next thing to do is take the rest of our water and fill up the condenser. So we're pretty much good to go. Right, we're just going to put the heat on now. It would help if I plugged it in. Okay, so we're on full power, and we'll come back to this as soon as it starts to heat up. And we've got our collection jar ready to take off the first 10 mils as 4 shots. So let's just drop in a couple of ice cubes to keep that condenser cool. We're going to have to keep adding those as the distillation proceeds. Okay guys, so first drop's coming off the still. We're just going to turn that now right down, and we're going to swap out our first, and we've got 10 mils here that we're just going to throw away as 4 shots. Definitely time to add some more ice to the condenser. That's helping. So I think we're going to put some more in. Getting pretty full in there. Yeah, that was getting pretty full. And I need to put more ice in. We're just coming up to the first 50 mils, and it's getting to be time to change our jars. The distillate that's coming off, it looks just a little cloudy, but we'll see how that goes. I'm just going to take a little taste. Yeah, well, tastes like gin. Quite high alcohol at the minute, of course. So, we've just swapped the jars out, and I've increased the heat just a little, so that we're getting a slightly faster drip rate, but still really pretty slow. Okay guys, so somewhere around the 250 mils mark, I ran out of ice cubes. So now I'm having to use a little tube to suck some water out of the condenser, and then pour in some cold water, and suck some water out, and pour in some cold water. Needless to say, this thing is going to get modified with some water in and out little tubes. Ha! Okay guys, so we've collected approximately 400 mils from this first jar of macerated gin mixture, and the last jar came off. The last 50 mils came off a little bit cloudy, like the first 50 mils did. Still smells like gin. I'm going to collect the next 50 just for fun, but I won't use it because it's almost certainly going to be very talesy. So, right, on to the next step. Let's find out how much alcohol we have collected at what ABV. So we've added 315 mils of water to our 79% ABV gin, and now we have got 70 centilitres in a bottle, slightly cloudy at 45% ABV. So now we've got to be patient, we've got to wait, ideally 5-6 days. But I probably haven't got that kind of patience, so we'll check in for a tasting tomorrow. Okay guys, it's been a few more days since we distilled the grapefruit and lime gin, and just so much stuff got in the way, but on the upside I have since modified that condenser so it now has a cold water in and a hot water out tube. So no more of that spit and suck and spit and suck and spit nonsense. So this, the spicy gin maceration mixture, has had a few more days macerating. I wonder what it smells like now. Let's have a look. Come on. Oh, golly, that was on hard. Smells amazing, actually, very spicy. So now we need to distill it. I'm not going to do the same as I did for the last one. What I think I'm going to do is a cheesy little time-lapse video. Okay guys, so both of these gins are now ready for tasting. These gins have both had a good amount of time since they were bottled to allow their flavours to develop. They're at 43% alcohol by volume. Now, this one, this is my spicy gin. And on the nose, it is quite juniper forward, but it's also got quite a savoury aroma to it. And in the mouth, yeah, there are herbs and spices in this, which are really quite evident. The rosemary and the tarragon are giving it a savouriness. It doesn't taste herbal, but it does taste sort of savoury, and the other spices in there are lifting that savouriness up. So I'm really pleased with where this has gone. I'm going to put a little bit of tonic in there to make a very simple gin and tonic. Now that is lovely. It's got a real complexity to it. No one particular botanical is outweighing the others apart from the juniper, which is exactly what I was driving for. So I'm very pleased with where this has gone. This one, So this is my citrus forward gin. On the nose, you can smell a hint of that citrus, but it's not really as powerful as I wanted it to be. We add a little bit of tonic to it. Now the tonic lifts the citrus element up a bit. You can distinctly identify the grapefruit flavour, but the lime in it is not as pronounced as I was looking for. So I think this needs a little tweak, and I need to increase my citrus botanicals a little, particularly the lime. And I think I might also add some orange, because the grapefruit has, well, that classic grapefruit bitterness to it. And I think what I would like to do is just lift that a little with a little bit of sweetness from some orange peel. So I think I'm going to have another crack at this one and increase the amount of lime, and also add some orange peel to give it more of a citrus boost and make it a lot more citrus forward than it is. So, was my work successful? Yeah, I think so. I've discovered that the spicy gin is exactly where I want it to be, and this one needs a bit more work to bring the citrus flavours a little bit more forward, but I'm certainly very happy. One important thing I did learn, I tried both of these gins on the evening that I distilled them, and it has to be said I was disappointed both times. What I've learned is that before you can start to appreciate the flavour development in the gin, it needs at least a week to sit after having been made, to let the I guess the brutality of adding water to the spirit to proof it down, that needs time to settle down, and the complexities of the flavours will shine through if you give it that chance. So yeah, that's a huge learning point for me, that I shouldn't be so excited about it that I instantly get stuck into it. Patience is definitely very important in this game. Okay, so where are we? What have we done? And where are we going? So I developed a couple of gin recipes, one spicy gin, one citrus gin. We macerated our botanicals for each of these in 1 litre of GNS proofed down to 40% ABV. I found that macerating for a longer period did help, and the spicy gin was macerated for just shy of a week. So I think longer than 24 hours seems to be better for me, at least. So next steps, I'm going to make some more of both of these gins. This one will have the tweaks in it that we talked about, and then we're going to set up some blind tasting sessions, and we're going to invite some people who know about the spirit world and about gin making, and some people who are just, you know, normal, friendly, happy people who like gin. So we'll do a blind tasting, and we'll see what kind of feedback we get from that before thinking about whether or not we've hit our final recipe, or whether or not we need to do some more work on it. After that video, well, we've got some production runs to do. I could do a video about that. We also need to, I've got a lot of old beer still, so I'm going to be doing some more stripping runs, and then I'm going to be doing a whiskey run. I've got some barrels on the way, and we'll be putting some whiskey into wood and seeing how that works out. So if you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us when you do that. If you have any comments to make, yeah, you know what to do. Tell us what you think. And if you have any suggestions for what to do in future videos, go for it. I'm very open to that. If you are interested in seeing more of my videos, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, you'll get notified, and then you can see them as they come available on YouTube. So that's it for this video. So please, keep on chilling, keep on distilling. Peace out.